This is the microscopic view of the organelles of the muscle cell with the neuromuscular junction. So,
That diagram you drew the other day, this part here.
yes, that's correct. Neuromuscular junction. We'll get to that. Let's start with the basics. The outside surrounding of the cell, what we typically refer to as the cell membrane or plasma membrane, on the muscle cell it's called the
Endomysium.
no sarcolemma.
That's the bone.
Oh, God.
No.
It's not?
No.
I'm wrong.
The endomysium is on this, but the cell membrane is called the sarcolemma of the muscle fiber.
Okay.
Okay? That's like the plasma membrane. Everything else inside is part of the cytoplasm. This is the connective tissue covering, the fascia that covers each and every cell. This is the endomysium, right? And all that goes all the way around. We are referring to this large thing as a myosatellite cell, a kind of stem cell that can give rise to new myofibers, help in healing and repair when these become damaged on a limited basis. This is the neuromuscular junction, this whole area where the motor neuron meets the muscle fiber. This is the actual motor neuron here, okay? And a little bit of its synaptic terminals, or the axon terminal branches. It branches when you can get to the end. And those branches have little swellings on them, the synaptic terminals, or the synaptic end bulbs. And in those terminals, if we take a look inside here, here's some of the terminals, right? Here's a terminal, here's a terminal, here's a terminal, and you see inside there's a lot of little yellow vesicles. Those are the vesicles filled with acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter that's going to be released and flowed across the synaptic cleft. So let's see if we can follow this. Here's your membrane, sarcolemma, and I'm going to assume it continues, the white continues down here. Okay, that's the membrane. So this indentation of the membrane, that's the motor end plate. This pink here is the space between the motor neuron and the membrane. All right? That's the synaptic cleft. And the acetylcholine released from the vesicles has to float across the cleft to the receptors found on the motor end plate to transfer the action potential from the motor neuron to the muscle cell. The gray things are mitochondria. You have some mitochondria in here. You have mitochondria in the cell. You know, the only thing that, is a little misleading is, how these membranes are, you have the membrane of the muscle cell continuous with what's going on up here. It should have kind of broken there. What is this yellow zone in here? Okay, that is part of the cytoplasm inside of the cell. It's a little confusing, but I think the way we laid it out is sufficient. This is the axon. This is the actual axon of the motor neuron. It travels through here, and there you see it there, and it branches into axon terminal branches. Living on the axon, surrounding the axon, these are Schwann cells. Schwann cells. They live on the axon, they cover the axon and protect it. They make something called myelin. See those rings? That's myelin, or myelination, that covers the axon and keeps it healthy. Okay, motor neuron, neuromuscular junction, terminal branches, synaptic terminals or end bulbs, vesicles with acetylcholine, motor end plate, and so on and so forth. Once the action potential has been transferred from neuron to fiber, it's going to travel around the entire membrane of the muscle cell. It's going to go down the T-tubules, the orange T-tubules. Their purpose is to transmit that action potential to each and every myofibril. These are the myofibrils. Okay? Each one surrounded in this white stuff. This is the sarcoplasmic reticulum that stores the calcium. The action potential travels down through the T-tubules to these special areas of sarcoplasmic reticulum known as the triad. That action potential triggers the release of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. And that calcium can then interact with the thin filaments, with the troponin on the thin filaments, causing that conformational change, allowing the myosin heads of the thick filament to bond to the active sites of the actin. And they create that cross-bridge formation and then power stroke and begin to pull and contract the muscle. So, sarcoplasmic reticulum, T-tubules, this zone of three things, white, orange, white, the triad, nucleus, again the gray, mitochondria, and that's about all that's on here.
Sorry, this is mitochondria also?
Yeah, all the gray things are mitochondria, and this one big blue thing is a nucleus.
So then you're saying neuromuscular junctions, the whole thing is a neuromuscular junction at the back?
This area here
So
is the neuromuscular junction, where the motor neuron meets the muscle fiber.
it's the whole thing from here to here.
Well, this whole zone, but within that zone there are different things, right? There are different parts. But the neuromuscular junction is really the zone where they meet. The parts then are more specific, talking about axon, Schwann cell, branches, bulbs, motor end plate, so on and so forth. All those things are part of this area known as the neuromuscular junction, where the nerve actually meets the muscle fiber.
And it's this one cell is what?
This is a Schwann cell here. You see this
Body
this
part
whole
of the,
thing here?
yeah.
That is that sausage-shaped thing. That's the Schwann cell, and there's its nucleus. And it's a cell that lives on the axon, and its job is to make lots of layers of myelin. It just keeps making layers of myelin that surround the axon. It's a protective covering around the axon. A protective covering that's maintained by a living cell. The purpose of that cell is to cover and protect the axon.
No, it's okay. I think we're done.
Oh, wait, I was pointing this.
All righty.
And the is the white endoplasmic reticulum? Oh no, sarcoplasmic.
Sarcoplasmic.